Whoa! Listen to that audience. Hello all and welcome back to Sigil Spotlight. My name as always is Mr. Harlan Guthrie, and I am here again with the fantastic Ellen the Abolt. How are you doing, Ellen?
Good. How are you?
Listen to this crowd. They're crazy for it. Wow. It's almost like I got new sound effects to make it seem a little less lonely. I didn't do that. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sigil Spotlight, the show where we spotlight members of our community, as well as just a myriad of fantastic creators, so that you can get to know them a little better and that we can get to know them a little better. Before we bring on our guest for today, Ellen, I know the answer to this question, but I feel like it wouldn't be right to open the show without asking, is there any news?
This week we are head down, really working on a whole bunch of stuff, but there's not really anything announceable yet.
We're head down and heart strong, which means we're focusing and in love with the content that we are hard at work to create.
Yeah. But we do have some news from our guest who does have things that he can talk about what he's been working on.
We have many things that we can talk about with our guest, as well as, again, because of the connection with this community and all that kind of stuff. Again, just to reiterate that S5E, I believe all of the first playtest materials a few weeks now should be in your hands. So hopefully you are well on your way to making your own campaign or one shot, at least, with S5E. I think that's exciting. So definitely give that a good try. If you're curious how it runs or you want a little bit of sort of seeing someone else play it, you can always check right here on this YouTube channel. We ran a 10-part S5E campaign called S5E. We were the first, so we didn't have to worry about a subtitle. Just got to be us. Featuring a number of guest stars as well as a fantastic crew. We're continually playing every Tuesday at 7:30 on this channel, Eastern Time. We're currently running through a D&D 5e campaign based on a previously published scenario through Sigil called Temple of the First Fire. And that is something that we've used as inspiration to make a campaign. So if you're looking for an actual play right here on this channel, you can check it out. It's 7:30 Eastern every Tuesday. And I do have a piece of news, actually, that I should mention. Oh. This is sort of relevant. So starting tonight at midnight Eastern, because I'm Eastern, I am starting 24 hours of streaming for Extra Life charity. We have so far raised, I think, over $3,600 from our community alone, which has been absolutely tremendous. So floored by the response from that. But this is a charity that benefits Sick Kids Hospital. We're starting tonight at midnight. We're going to be doing video games, RPGs, a live Hot Ones challenge where we eat 10 spicy wings. It's my 5th year doing it. It is not fun. And then we're ending the night with a drinking game, Tomb of Horrors, which is Tomb of Horrors drinking game, where like you can revive your character if you drink an entire beer, and it's going to be a very messy night. But the reason it's relevant is because Sigil has generously donated a little bit of their effort to one of our stretch goals. So part of this campaign, we are unlocking little things. So at $1,000, I ate the one chip, which was very, very spicy. It brutalized me. And that will premiere tomorrow. You'll see a video of that. At 2,000, my 4-year-old son ran us through a D&D game, which is adorable. At 3,000, we did the drinking game. And at 4,000, Sigil has generously donated a bit of their time where you are entered into a draw. Anybody who donates to the Extra Life campaign is entered into a draw to win a free custom character portrait. So that was a huge get. Aaron just messaged me and said, here, feel free to let us help you in some way. So that's a little Sigil connection. So if you do want a portrait, consider donating. And there's the link right there, extralife.org.
I actually forgot we have another Friends of Sigil group who's also participating in Extra Life.
No way.
Yes, the PF2E Foundry community is also streaming for Extra Life, including so I work closely with Cody, who is also Foundry staff member, and this will be his first time playing Pathfinder, and you can watch it live.
Oh, that's fantastic. Is there a link to their Extra Life as well? Maybe you can find it and we'll put it up as well. because ultimately all of this benefits the kids. So if you have the means and the motive, sounds like a murder. If you have the means, consider donating today to one of the Extra Life charities. There's hundreds of you just sent to me. There's hundreds of people doing this, thousands even, some would say. But yeah, this one is a little more wordy, but it's there. See if you can screenshot that and get that in there. And they've raised 1,200 so far as well. So a fantastic setup already for them. So congratulations for that. To everybody participating, Extra Life. It's a good, noble cause.
Yeah.
Noble, I don't know about that. It's a good cause. I love how I just disagreed with myself. As if someone else said it. It's like, noble cause? I don't know about that, Harlan, you jerk. Anyway, enough of that. We would like to introduce you to our first and only guest for today, as we only do one guest ever. Please welcome to the stage, Flo.
Hi.
Proud, Flo. They're going wild for you. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. Enjoying Friday evening because I'm mainland European, so it's like 6 in the evening right now. So I'm enjoying Friday night basically.
Have you already had dinner, or is dinner coming after this?
Dinner's coming after this, yeah.
Nice. Anything special planned? I'm getting excited for my own dinner. I don't know what I want yet.
I don't know yet. Maybe some sushi.
Ooh, love me some sushi. No, that's fantastic. It's funny because we do the show for so many different places and times and all that kind of stuff. And I gotta say, I think you having a 6 o'clock slot is probably the best we've seen. We've had, between like 6 a.m., which I think we've had some people on for, not ideal to have to wake up and talk and answer questions. But a Friday at 6, look at this. John Stevens is already
hey,
excited. Best developer ever. Whoa.
Wow.
I'll take the praise. I'll take it.
Now, why do you think, John? Here's the first question. What makes you the best developer ever? That's not antagonistic. I'm curious, what is John excited about there? Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do and maybe why that might be true?
What I do mostly is I work in the Foundry VTT community, and I'm the main developer behind the Foundry VTT game system for Savage Worlds Adventure Edition. And John has worked with me a lot on getting stuff figured out, and we've worked together on very other teams and a lot of other things. Like, we go back and forth on like content and stuff, like how do we do this, or hey, would it be possible to add this? And yeah, sure, let's talk about it. And he's been also very generous with helping me. He's like, okay, when I'm going, like, okay, I want to, like, it's the next big feature, I want to make this. And then John is like, okay, what do you need? I'll try and get you the help I need. And I was like, yeah, sure, thanks. And internally, like, I don't even know what I don't know, but thank you for the offer.
Isn't it true, though? Well, it sounds like you're the best developer because obviously you lean on the people around you and get their help. Yeah. And, some people, especially in this game, tend to be very blinded in their thinking, and they put their head down and they heart strong. What was the bullshit thing I said at the beginning, Ellen? I don't remember, but and ultimately,
heart strong.
Ultimately, I can already see with people hanging out in the chat, getting excited that you're on the show. Clearly, you've built up a little community around yourself, which is obviously a point of pride to have. I think that's fantastic.
Definitely.
These people definitely seem like they're excited to hang out. So, I guess I want to ask a number of questions, but they're all going to be off topic and nerdy stuff because so before Alan gets into the real questions, I am curious, Flo, you're wearing a D20 on your shirt. Yep. Obviously you're passionate. Yeah. What is your Desert Island role playing? Is it as easy as saying Savage Worlds, or is there a different answer,
It's definitely like 80% Savage Worlds, yeah, and 20% Pathfinder 2nd Edition.
Ah, okay.
Because
what makes that 20% Pathfinder?
Because I've gotten my start with 1st edition Pathfinder basically, and then eventually switched over to Savage Worlds because it was just more conducive to the stuff I wanted to do compared to Pathfinder. And
so recently, I've nostalgia in Pathfinder, maybe.
Yeah, definitely a bit of nostalgia. And couple months ago, I got to join a group run by the amazing Timon, who is also working on the Pathfinder 2e system, and that sort of brought my love back for that rule set.
Are you definitely more of a crunchy rule set person over like a anything goes?
No, I'm definitely more of an anything goes
Really?
player.
Okay.
Yeah, because I got my start playing like text-based, so it was a lot of role playing, and that's sort of where the whole influence came from.
What do you mean by text-based? Do you mean like in a chat room, or do you mean
Yeah.
like Zork type stuff? Oh, okay.
No, in a chat room, we had for the longest time I was super nerdy on an IRC server, which I think still exists somewhere. But that's sort of where I got my start, just hanging out in that IRC server, and then somebody like friends messaged me, "Hey, we're trying this thing out. Do you want to come?" And I was like, "Sure, why not? Let's give it a try." And well, and then I was hooked, basically. That's sort
That's
of how
awesome.
it got started.
Now, when you play, do you have sort of, are you of the ilk where you run many, many, many different characters and they're constantly dying? Or are you sort of a purist? You have one character and you bring them back in different forms and stuff like that?
Definitely more on the purist side. I've got this very small roster of characters that I tend to reuse, and I've got like obviously they share their like personality traits and rough
Yeah,
and rough like backstory, but they changed for the setting and the game. And
cool. Yeah, I feel like, especially when you've been role playing for a long time, there is definitely an era that everyone sort of does this cycle of characters, and you go through everything, and you go through the silly ones, and but then eventually you sort of just fall back on familiar favorites because it becomes not just easier but more comfortable to play them. You sort of know your strengths, you know what you're enjoying to play, and all that kind of stuff. So.
Especially if you're just like picking up like a one shot that you don't necessarily have like a bunch of time to prep for. It's like, here we go.
Yeah, that's honestly, that's one of the reasons I play the same character now for the most part, is because I have a character sheet from level 1 to 20 for a character. So that was a level 4 game. Perfect. I can pull up my sheet. Like I know what I'm gonna do. Except then sometimes you're like, oh shit, I don't have that spell yet. No. But and are you primarily a PC then, or do you DM, or a bit of both?
A bit of both. It's definitely I like to get into DMing more again, but I've done a lot of DMing, mostly a player right now. So
DMing is time consuming.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, and especially if you're if you're with a good crew, it becomes a really enjoyable thing. If you're not with a good crew, or you're sort of, there's a few people in your party that you're not in love with, then being a DM can be one of the worst experiences. So it's knife edge, as they say. Anyway, Ellen, all right, let's crack into the meat of the questions. My bullshit out of the way.
So we kind of started how you got into gaming. How did you find Foundry and decide you wanted to program for it? Well, in that sphere.
Well, that's kind of a funny story, because I found Foundry because I wanted to move off Roll20. I had a group running back then, and we were running on Roll20. We weren't really all that happy with it. Like, it was working, but we wanted to do more. But we also had this constraint that my players didn't want to make an account in a different service. So first we were looking at Astral, but okay, gotta need a new account, so it's out of the question. So I kept looking, and then I found Foundry. It was pre-release, like in the alpha beta stage, like really early on, and I took a look at it and was like, this is exactly what I'm looking for.
Back in the Patreon days.
Yeah, definitely back in the Patreon days. Yeah, and then I saw, okay, we need a game system for this, because otherwise it won't run. Let's start with the simple world building stuff. And my day job is as a software developer, so I do this kind of stuff almost 24/7 at this point. And I'm a tinkerer, so I was looking at the documentation and found it's like, oh wow, okay, I can make my own game system. And I love programs, so hey, let's do this. Let's start this. And this sort of started as a hobby project and spiraled out of control, more or less.
In a good way, though.
That's familiar.
Spiraled into cruise control.
Yeah, that's a good way.
So is your go ahead, Harlan.
Right, no, go ahead.
So is your background Foundry is all built on JavaScript? Is your background in JavaScript, or what's your...
My background originally was Java.
Okay.
Which has a name that's similar to JavaScript, but is not at all like JavaScript. But at the time, I was working on some stuff that needed the TypeScript, which is related to JavaScript. And so I figured, okay, I need to learn TypeScript anyway, so I'll just do this Foundry stuff in TypeScript, and kill two birds with one stone.
Yeah.
And now I do more TypeScript and JavaScript stuff in my day job as well. So it's worked out.
Cool stuff.
I don't know what any of that means, just from
programming languages.
But I'm happy I'm happy that was a question that some people would know the answer to now. I'm not a technical person, as one would say, but I do enjoy the world that we're playing within, literally, which is VTT and primarily role-playing games and all that kind of jazz. So, but other people, I'm sure, will have that question. So I appreciate you asking that, Ellen, and answering that, Flo. What exciting stuff are you working on now for yourself? Obviously, you are somebody who's in this realm, who's excited for all the different things. There must be something that you're working on, a system or a...
There are many different things. I've got a lot of small projects going, some technical, some not technical. A technical project that I'm working on is a website that sort of started as a joke, because we figured out you can buy as a URL a .lol domain. So I immediately jumped in and bought tpk.lol.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, and I decided to build a website for it and it's sadly not done yet. I'm still working on it, where people can submit their TPK reports, so that stories. Like, okay, my party died. Or let's share this story with other people. And that's sort of what I'm working on under the domain tpk.lol. And I've also given out some subdomains to friends who found it really funny. And it's like that. That's where the Foundry servers are now found.
I like that. That's funny.
That's fun.
Yeah, that is good. It reminds me of a very, very different intentioned version of a website called Unsent Letters, where people send letters to past lovers and things like that. It's sort of like that, but in a much more comical or role-playing sense, where you could write how your party died and be like, we were walking through the woods, and just all these anonymous letters. That's very neat.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
What else is exciting?
I'm working on I've been playing Savage Worlds a lot in a homebrew setting, and I'm working on sort of formalizing that, refining that, putting that into some sort of book form that I want to eventually release. And that's taking up a lot of my creative energy as well. It's called Starscraper.
Ooh.
And it's a sort of a sci-fi space opera themed setting.
That's fun.
Love me some space opera.
Yeah.
Oh, Christian's seen the site prototype, tpk.lol. That's cool, though. What's most exciting about that idea to you that you want to share, obviously, because you don't, no pressure.
It's a universe I've worked on for a long time, from my earliest Savage Worlds days. I've worked on that and sort of refined it, okay, what are the species, what are the themes, what are the universe, the places and all that. And that's just sort of sharing that with more and more people is what gets me really excited about that.
That's cool.
Yeah, cool, yeah.
Ellen?
So you hinted earlier when we were talking pre-stream that there were exciting things in store for the Suede system, that you were working on some cool stuff for the next version. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. We've got so many things going on. First of all, the new version of Foundry is on the horizon, which brings some new stuff relating to cards, which is obviously very important to Savage Worlds. So we've started to gear up and sort of prepare for doing that, because we did the cards in a bit of a hacky way because Foundry didn't really support it. But now it's really supporting cards in a really cool way, and we're trying to sort of, and by we, I say myself and the community, because we do have community contributors who also contribute features and stuff. We're sort of worked on figuring out, what do we need to do, and getting prepared, setting everything up so that once we have the means, we can immediately jump in and start putting all those features into code and getting them shipped to the people, because it's quality of life, it's improvements. And also we've got new stuff that's already finished. Like we've got Christian, who's here. I think I've seen his name, who submitted some really cool features like arcane devices being fully featured in the system and a bunch of other things that he's done in the past. So there's a lot of stuff we've already done some minor improvements and fixes. So that's out of the way, so we can focus on the big things now, which are
I
coming.
keep forgetting that card support is coming. You're right. That's going to be huge.
I resubbed to the Foundry patron just so I could vote for card support.
So, Harlan, because you're not like deep in
I don't
that.
know anything.
Foundry does have a Patreon. That was originally how it started. Was you had to sub to the Patreon in order to be able to get the license,
Get the program.
we'll get the key, and they still have the Patreon up. And if you join, then you can do things like vote on what is the big ticket item that you want to come in the next Foundry version. So
Makes
for
sense.
0.9, which is coming shortly, card support finally won.
That danged card support finally, because
Yeah.
Savage Worlds uses that deck of cards,
Yeah.
right? I've only played Deadlands, and it was a few years ago. I know everyone on here is always like, Savage Worlds is the best system, and I'm always like, yeah, I played it. I don't remember it that well, but I
Hey, that's
remember
okay.
liking
I
it.
still have not played it.
We're gonna have to fix that.
That's good. Yeah,
It's been on my list. I've just been
Right
so busy.
now.
I haven't
you enter
gotten
into
to
a
it.
tavern. No, I'm just kidding. Oh, look, there we go. I have to fix it. Well, I have played Deadlands. I do remember that Deadlands had my favorite combat system of any RPG that I've played. So it already ranked up there in terms of like what I really liked about it. I remember being like, oh, that's cool. But also, most of the games I play now will go the entire night with maybe 1 or 2 rolls. So it is not sad, John. We don't. You know what, Ellen? Don't listen to John. It is you're doing great. You're doing you. It's so sad, by the way, John. Don't worry.
I'll get there eventually. There's so many.
We do have a comment, and I mentioned it previous, and I feel like why not? Because we're excited. Flo, talk a little bit about what's in your background there. You said you modded this 3D printer.
Yes, that is my 3D printer. It's an old, at this point, old Creality Ender 5. That's the model name, and I've modified it a lot. Like built new stuff to it. Like you can see the blue thing over there. That's a camera, and there's like wrong direction. There's a tiny computer there, so that I can remotely like watch it when I'm not at home and I'm printing long things. And yeah, I've printed a lot of stuff with it over the years.
What's the most exciting thing that you've printed with it?
Most exciting thing is probably my latest big printing project, where I've printed myself some speaker casings they're mostly done, and they're gonna be set up in the living room and hooked up to the TV.
Cool.
That's so cool. What's been the most frustrating issue that you've had with the printer? Because we have a couple of printers, and they need help more often than they're working.
Oh dear. The most frustrating issue was like when you have a really, really long print, like let's say over a day, because I've had those like 38-hour prints, and in the last like 8 hours it fails because something clogs
that's
up.
The worst.
Yes. It's like, and you can sort of hear it when like one of the motors, it tries to move the plastic, but it's stuck and it's clicking, and it's this click of doom, and it hears you. You hear it, and it sort of shivers down your spine. You say, "Oh God, now I have to do everything again."
Oh no, that's so frustrating.
That is. Yeah.
It's cool though that technology, they're talking about printing these houses now, where they're doing like the layer, and they're talking about how they could, bring them to the moon or Mars or whatever and start printing these houses, stuff like that. A crazy concept. And you think about how fast technology moves sometimes, and what the next 50 years is going to look like in terms of that. These 3D printers, the idea of them expanding and getting bigger. It's a very exciting thing. The tactileness, I think, is always going to be appealing. And I think the amount of crossover between RPGs and 3D printers is huge. It's funny because it sort of has that domino effect. COVID has more people playing RPGs, has them yearning to be around the table, has them investing more in 3D printers, has 3D printers technology being a little bit more easier to use and user friendly. You know, it's all sort of clicking into place, and then people are starting to see that benefit.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, I just remember from Jurassic Park 3 when he printed off that little philosopher.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah, there you go. A room full of minis. But Aaron, you're saying that it's a bad thing.
Yeah, Aaron, you know you want it. You know it. Give in.
Yeah, it is difficult. The decision paralysis is real. I hear you there. But you know what? Think of printers like regular printers now. You know, no one gives a shit what kind of printer they're using now. They're like, whatever Canon's on sale at Walmart, I'll buy it. I'm waiting for that day when I'm like rolling by. I'm like, I guess I'll get a little 3D printer and print off this. But then by that time, the high end ones are going to be going crazy. But anyway, Ellen, what are the serious questions? I
was distracted by the printer. Let's see. So Florid, you're also a Foundry moderator on the main Foundry Discord. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? About what your experience has been there?
Well, in short, the experience has been very good. Like, we've spent a lot of time cultivating a really friendly community and trying to make it a welcoming place for everybody, and that's really paid off. Like, the biggest problem we've had to fight recently was spams from accounts that have been bot spams, and that's basically the biggest issue, and that says a lot about the founder community and makes my job as a moderator really easy.
That's something I hear over and over from people, and it's always gratifying to hear because I know how much work has gone into it, of like just how nice the Foundry community is. And I mean, we see that on the developer Discord as well, the League. It's all work that, you know, you guys as moderators and the rest of the team do, and, you know, sort of policing everybody. So it's really appreciated, and it's nice to hear.
Well, Sigil has a nice Discord too, we should mention.
We do.
No, but it is. Sigil is also a really fantastic place to hang out and talk to people. This is, you know, Sigil is Foundry is obviously a Foundry Discord, and it is vast and expansive, and it is very, very welcoming. The Sigil one is a little bit more of an amalgamation of because Sigil has so many tentacles out doing various things. It does have that sort of hub feel to it, you know, like welcome to the internet type front door stuff. So of course, if you're watching this, make sure you join the Sigil Discord as well. You get a free pizza if you enter.
Oh man,
someone promised me. I'm waiting on mine too, so don't. I mean, I'm not going to fulfill it. Neither is Aaron. No one official has promised it, but you get one. Not now, but like at some point in your life, you know, you'll get it.
The universe now owes you a free pizza.
Exactly. The universe now owes you a free pizza. Whether it will be edible or not, whether it will be warm or not, these are all questions that I don't know. But the next time you walk into the break room and there's a slice of pizza sitting on a plate, you can eat that. That's from us. You're welcome. Oh, if John leaves
there we go. John, asking the real questions.
Yeah, well, if you leave and rejoin, you actually lose pizza. So next time you get a pizza delivered, that's how the free pizza comes. To everyone who leaves. Oh, look, Aaron's eating pizza right now.
Wow.
Oh, God, I love pizza. Anyway, enough about pizza. I'm hungry. I can feel myself drooling. Flo, what are some other things? Obviously, you have these sort of projects that you're working on. Is there something else similarly to how you got started in this that you feel a need for, that if you had the time, you kind of would love to see yourself implementing? You know how you sort of have this drive, obviously, somebody who's sort of sees themselves as someone who could help fix a hole that is missing in a market. Is there something that you always wish to sort of start to tackle, but you can't get around to?
I can't think of anything because everything I want to make already started. So
you are content. We were talking about this with a previous guest about VTTs and sort of their next iteration. Mm-hmm. And it's always interesting the way they work, because when someone implements something that's needed, you know, you're kind of like, oh, why didn't we realize how important that was before? Because if you ask most VTT developers right now, there's no huge features other than, like the card features for Savage Worlds you just mentioned that are totally missing out of VTT. And yet the next thing that might come along might change the way that we viewed about that previously. Is there anything that maybe even just the technology hasn't caught up with yet that you sort of wish could be better implemented in the VTT? I know it's a bit of a tough question. I based this around my theory that we should have a reverse microwave. Like we have something that makes your food hot, but other than a fridge or a freezer, nothing gets cold fast enough. And I want a instant, put it in, cool it down, 2-second thing. But the technology just isn't there.
I mean, it's a neat idea. I'll give you that. I just can't.
That's right.
I can't really think of it. It's sort of harks back to what I said in the beginning. I don't know what I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. You're so right. Yeah.
What about a module that you wish you'd written? Like you just think it's so delightful that you wish you'd thought of it.
Oh man, it's probably gonna have to if there was something that would probably be Dice So Nice because it's just so good. It's
which one?
Dice So
Nice. They're the 3D dice that roll across the screen.
Yeah. I use that. I feel like that's the first one.
It's such a great module, and in hindsight, I sort of wish, man, I'd love to have like my name on there somewhere, but I can't. Obviously, I can't take the credit away from the amazing people that have done this, and I wish them the best for the future. And maybe we're gonna get like a card version of Dice So Nice eventually.
Oh, put that on your developer wish list.
Yeah, definitely. We've been talking about that on the league, like trying to figure out what sort of stuff would we need to do to like make card visualization like we did like Dice So Nice does with dice. Like how
good. Like physical cards falling on the table.
Oh, man.
Ooh. Yeah.
Stolen
trademark.
Cool.
Sorry, that was my.
No, that'd be so cool. But just like I even just trying to like wrap my head around like what would that need to do? It's like that is going to be such a gnarly project.
Well, there you go. There we go. We got our answer. Because I was saying, what is an idea that's so difficult, but it hasn't come yet, and there you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting because ultimately VTTs are there to emulate the presence about being around a table.
Yeah.
So to sort of think of them from the ground up, what are they missing? Like how do we bridge that final gap?
Actually, in light of that, so in light of that, Florent, have you been following the materials stuff?
Is that material dice and stuff?
Yeah, do you keep track of that?
Not really. I've got a sort of betted on a different horse on the pixel dice.
Yeah. Okay.
Which had a Kickstarter, which were, how do I best put this? Smart dice, like physical dice, like a D20, D6, or whatever that you can roll, and it knows what it came up as, and then it can sort of tell that to an app or a computer, and we could feed that into Foundry, and that's something I'm really excited about. That's going to hopefully happen eventually.
There's a whole series of things starting to come of people wanting to directly link the people in person with the people playing online.
Oh, so you're saying you'd roll physical dice and
they would print to Foundry as well. So you and like the one guy who was traveling and couldn't make in-person session or whatever can be sitting on Foundry and playing with you guys while the rest of you are still around the table.
Well, I definitely would like that because even playing online, I always will roll real dice. I do not like dice rollers. I think they look gorgeous and people I play with use them. But to me, that's like the one tactile thing I enjoy about any RPG where you get to roll that D20.
Yep.
Plus, how can I justify my obsession with buying all these dice if
right?
I roll the dice?
Oh, yeah.
Then I just have to get rid of them. And nobody wants to do that. Send me your dice if you don't want them anymore. That's a really interesting concept, though.
There's a couple of other things they're working on, like various people. I know there's a project going on about trying to link miniature movement, so that if you have a screen, if you're playing on like a tablet or one of those like TVs set in or something like that, they'll track your movement, your physical miniature movement across the map and then translate that into the movement of your token in Foundry.
Yeah, and that Joe Magdaleone dude or whatever his name is, the big actor who plays D&D, he just was part of a company that came out with the AR. Do you see this where they're holding up their phones on the table and you look through your phone on like a blank table and your setup is there, you know,
I haven't
so you
seen
can
that
kind of
one.
look around, which
That's
is
cool.
funny.
Yeah, that's
Well,
really cool.
My friend, this is actually really funny, but I stream every week 5 years D&D, all different types of role playing games. I play tons, and like 5 years ago, my friend, we were talking about ideas, you know, as we were streaming, and he was like, you know, it's like I would love to, you know, AR stuff, and at that time it was very new. He was like, but imagine having your phone, and he literally pitched exactly what is out now. But the kicker is. I shot him down so hard. I was like, listen. Well, here's the thing.
Man.
I told him, and I still think it was a genius idea, but you know, he's like me. We have no technical know-how, so to do it would be near impossible.
So it's literally just the idea, man.
But yeah, and he was like, I don't know, I still think it would be something. I was like, yeah, maybe. And now this AR idea it's going to take off, and people can start looking at their tables that being there and all that kind of shit. And I'm just going to tell him that he's crazy, and he's just going to gaslight him so he doesn't think it never happened. Nah, you never came up with that. That was you saw that on a video. Just kidding, Chris. If you're watching this, I know it was your idea. We'll talk after. But yeah, it's interesting bridging that VTT with the in-person. You know, ultimately, which way is it going to fall? Like, the dice to me is a way to make your rolls available in the VTT, you know, rather than the VTT available in person, which makes sense because of what COVID's done. We've tend to move towards the screens in terms of how we communicate and how we get together. It's become more necessary. Rather than the inverse. So, but I am still curious, you know, in what ways are people going to be playing in the future? Because it's difficult to replicate that around the table feel. And still, no matter how you slice it, the learning curve for Foundry and any of these in-depth VTTs is very steep. You know, you need to know. You know.
Yeah, that's actually a great question. So, Foundry and other VTTs get a lot of flack for being difficult to pick up. Is the learning curve of picking up Suede, the Suede system, and learning how to play it and all of that, is that something that you take into consideration when you're adding things to the system and making rewrites and things like that?
Definitely.
How easy it is to learn?
Definitely. Like not so much learn, but like discover. Like how do we make something look and feel so that it's easy for people to discover a certain feature? That like how do I tell a person without telling them, like, click here to roll your some skill or some attribute or some damage? Like, how do we tell people without telling them? And it's really a tough nut to crack. And
I like that discover, like, rather than like how do you teach them, how do you help them discover that? I like that.
Because ultimately you're not there with them to teach them, so you're gonna make it easy for them, for everybody to discover how it is on, or how to do it on their own. And if all else fails, they still have the Foundry Discord, so they can ask questions. We're happy to answer your questions that you have.
Yeah.
Just a great comment.
There we
here,
go.
so
Yeah.
I thought I'd highlight it.
No, that's a great comment, Christian, about different systems working different ways adds to the learning curve. Do you? So actually, that's another that. So it leads me to another question. Then, so Florida, you've been around since the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see systems? Are they kind of converging towards a common design language, or are they sort of everybody's doing their own thing completely independently?
I think there's definitely people are definitely diverging, because every like rule set is sort of different. It is different in how it works and how it feels, and people definitely, from what I've seen, want to incorporate the feel of the world and the rules into the game system, which necessarily dictates that each game system sort of works slightly different and looks different. Yeah, and often that is quite evident because PF2E has a very in-depth rule set.
Yeah.
It has a very in-depth character sheet to match.
That's
so what
true.
we really need is AI learning so that the AI can be the game masters and explain the rules to us and sort of interpret all this stuff. So really, I'm thinking Skynet. It sounds like a good name. Let's get something like Skynet up. And it could be this net, and then, we'll teach it to learn, and then we'll teach it to be, our servants, and then eventually it'll all work out, I think, right? That's what we're saying.
Yeah, definitely. Sounds
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
So Skynet
I foresee
came
no issues
from
or
role-playing
risks.
games, from people who didn't want to be their own GMs, that didn't want to learn the systems. And ultimately, it was our downfall. Thank you, Sarah Connor. You saved us all. No, that's exciting. Flo, is there anything else that you're really excited for? And whether it's your own personal project or just something you're enjoying in your own time, is there something that you are really jumping up to talk about?
I mean, one thing that I'm really excited about is one of my favorite video games, Final Fantasy XIV. It's getting an expansion soon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Endwalker, and I'm pumped for that. I'm really pumped for that. So I'll probably, when that launches, I'll probably like take a week off work, vanish. Yeah, sorry boss, I'm sick. I've got the MMOitis.
It's a very serious disease, yeah.
Yes, definitely.
That's fantastic. I mean, yeah, there's a few video games coming out that I'm getting pumped for. But I'm going to be playing a lot, obviously, in the next 24 hours, so I'm not really looking forward to it right now. But when does it come out? When does the expansion come out?
Oh, sometime in November, so less than a month, I think.
Yeah, it's like late November.
Yeah.
Sorry, I also play Final Fantasy 14, so.
Oh, well, I also don't. So I don't actually know when it comes out. And I've never played a Final Fantasy game, so I don't even know what the Final Fantasy is about. I don't know what the Final Fantasy is.
It's about crystals.
Ah.
Most Final Fantasy games have crystals.
Are they healing crystals? Do they come with Reiki instructions?
If I remember correctly, like originally the name of Final Fantasy came from because it was supposed to be the studio's last game. Because
I've heard that
they were doing really badly, and so they made like one last hurrah and call it Final Fantasy because that's probably gonna be our last game. And that
was
and now that we're on Final Fantasy 14, I'm guessing it was their last game, right? It seems like
they're working on 16 at the moment, so.
So it's a popular series, is what you're telling me.
Oh, definitely.
No, that's exciting. That's pumped. Yeah. What about you, Ellen? Anything you're excited about? Anything you're really
I mean, like Flowrat, I'm also excited about the expansion, despite the fact that I'm like a serious newbie in Final Fantasy 14. Let's see what else. I don't know. We're
just a vet waiting to be pwned.
That's a way to put it. For people who actually know Final Fantasy 14, like I'm still a sprout. Like I still have the little sprout guy.
I don't know what that is.
It's their little newbie marker. So it's basically just you haven't gotten far enough in the game, so people still need to take care of you.
That's cute,
yeah. Let's see. Other thing, there's various. I don't know. There are a lot of things that I'm excited about, but they're all like. I don't know, like short-term stuff. Like we're having furnace troubles. I'm excited to get those fixed.
Hey, listen, I just got my fridge fixed. There's no reason that's not important. Things need to work. You know what I'm pumped about, actually? Last night, I finished a series called Only Murders in the Building. It's a television show.
Oh.
It's with Steve Martin and Martin Short and Selena Gomez. If you like murder mysteries and comedy, I highly recommend it. It's on Disney+. I think it's one of the best shows I've seen in a long time. It's right up. It was a show written for me, like essentially. Like it was exactly my level of humor. It was exactly my level of like everything about it. It was just a 10. So I was really excited about that. But you know what? I find nowadays, especially with video games and media and movies, there's such an oversaturation. You know, anyone can make a video game and a movie on your flip phone. Jesus, God, I'm dating myself. Anyone can make a video or a video game. And don't get me wrong, some of the smaller stuff that comes out from both movies and video games, because that pipeline of creating is so much easier now. It's so much streamlined, similar to what we're talking about printers. Everyone can kind of try their hand at it. So we are getting blown away by the amount. And within that amount, it is amazing. But that's also why I think recommending stuff, and that's why I ask, what is anyone excited about? Because honestly, sometimes trying to find the smaller stuff, trying to find something to watch, I get blown away now just with how much there is. Like, to be like, well, okay, what I want to play a game. Where do I start? Like, what do I do now? Like, there's so many things coming out. So I always enjoy hearing what people are excited about, because next movie or next, video game that I play, maybe I'll pick up Final Fantasy. Maybe I'll start at the beginning.
You've got a lot of game ahead of you.
Yeah, isn't the first one's like a not a roguelite? Isn't it like, what do you call them, where they're like 3 people on this side, 3 people on this side, and then you go
turn-based.
Yeah, turn-based
combat.
Yeah. Is that just what's called turn-based? That exact side, that JRPG type turn-based ones? Because like,
sorta.
Because turn-based to me also like applies to like XCOM, which is like a top-down isometric turn-based. So it's like, I don't know what that side view turn-based is. It must have another modifier, like 2D
probably
combat encounter, like how Pokemon does when you're walking through the fields, and then it's and then you're like in that. That's kind of
that's the very first ones. Like, the thing about Final Fantasy isn't really like a direct series. Like, you play 1 and then the plot of 1 impacts the plot of 2. They're kind of, hey, we've taken some common design elements and stuff, but each of these games are independent. They don't even take place in the same universe.
Weird.
So it is a little bit weird when you first start playing them, but they are some of them at least are a lot of fun. Some of them are flops, but some of them are really, really fun.
Look, Christian's with me. Only Murderers is so good. Selena Gomez was great. She was so great. Loves Martin Short and Steve Martin. Nathan Lane was so good in it.
Oh.
I love Nathan Lane. Such a good actor. One of my favorite movies of all time is The Birdcage. If you haven't seen The Birdcage, I highly recommend watching The Birdcage. It's so good. Anyway, I think that is it for us. Flo, did you have any final things you wanted to promote or talk about? Anything exciting going on? No pressure. Just wanted to give you the floor.
I mean, I'm always gonna plug Savage Worlds, and I'm always gonna plug Foundry.
Come
visit us. We're awesome. So
visit Foundry and visit and check out Savage Worlds, because they're both awesome and they're made by awesome people and also supported by awesome people. So there you go. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for hanging out with us. This has been Sigil Spotlight. We're going to be back in 2 weeks. And as always, we'll see you around the table. Good night. Or good afternoon.
Good night.
Oh, that crowd.